Thank you everybody for joining us with your precious free time on this Thursday evening. I'm going to share slides and go through some stuff with you all, but it is really nice to see so many people logged on as usual.
Yay.
All right, can we see something that says ballpark?
Yes, thank you.
Excellent. I love it. Great. Okay, so part of our meeting tonight is going to be talking about a new building, Tradition Point, but we will get to that a little bit later. So my goals tonight are to go over some announcements, some crime reports, city policy issues. Then we'll talk about this new building proposed for our neighborhood. We'll get an update on the Gail Miller Homeless Resource Center. And then we'll also hear an update about the 300 West Reconstruction project, which I know we've been hearing about for a while, but we're actually going to start seeing pavement get ripped up in the not too distant future next year. So it'll be interesting and exciting to get an update on how's that going to work. And then we will get an update from city officials, although I believe Darren Mano, Councilmember Mano, will not be joining us tonight. He is celebrating his engagement with his family tonight. Congratulations, Councilmember Mano. But he and I did have a conversation and updated each other earlier this afternoon, so I can distill some of that for y'all. Okay, as usual, if you have found your way here via nextdoor.com or some other mechanism, please feel free to stay connected to us. Go dig up our Facebook page, follow us there. You can join our email list. I promise I send out about 4 emails a month, if that. So I will not pepper you with exciting promotions. We also have a private neighborhood watch page. Totally encourage you guys to join that as well. That's where we share, slightly more private updates like, hey, I saw somebody breaking into the abandoned house. Hey, I contacted civil enforcement about somebody breaking into the abandoned house. Hey, I got an update from civil enforcement about getting the abandoned house boarded over. These are very real and recent examples, of course. Hope to get one of those houses boarded up real soon. And in addition, I totally recommend the SLC mobile app for exactly the reasons that Lloyd was talking about earlier. Super responsive for issues like graffiti, abandoned carts, and even stuff like weeds or inappropriate amounts of like yard junk and debris. All of these civil enforcement issues are reactive. That is like, we need to report them for them to get taken care of. Nobody is proactively patrolling the city except for Lloyd to get this stuff taken care of. So it's extremely helpful for us, and you're actually helping to build our community by like logging in and reporting this stuff. Pretty easy to do. And then you can go on our neighborhood watch page and brag about having done it. Kudos to you. Election results that, again, hyper local and matter to us because we had both of our Salt Lake City School Board candidates on and answering questions at our last meeting. I wanted to share with you that Mohammed Bayed is going to be representing our neighborhood for our whole precinct 5. So congratulations. And I look forward to bringing him back on again if you all think that would be appropriate sometime in the near future to talk about issues that would affect us. Okay, I'll give a neighborhood crime update and then I'll pass this over to Detective King to answer any questions that you might have. Detective King also, or often when I pester him with questions, he's kind and responsive, but lets me know that since a lot of the issues that we deal with turn into active ongoing investigations, he's not actually at liberty to answer as many questions as maybe I have or you have. So I'm going to give you the media updates from these issues because that's what Detective King tells me to, that's some of our best and most detailed sources. Notably in the past month since the last time we met, which was October 1st, we've had a major arrest in a homicide case and 2 shootings in our neighborhood. Last time we met, we talked about this extremely brutal and horrific homicide of this 13-year-old girl, woman in South Salt Lake, which is definitely not technically in our neighborhood, but as you can see from the map, from that pin there down in red, it's just a few blocks south of our neighborhood. So I think folks might feel affected.
Yeah.
Due to surveillance footage, a man was identified and arrested. He was staying at the Men's Resource Center in South Salt Lake, and glad that that's been taken care of relatively quickly. It's pretty horrific stuff if you read even just what was printed in the newspaper. But like I said, we've also had a couple shootings, and those have been less resolved. You probably are aware that there was a shooting in the Lowe's parking lot at 1300 South a couple weeks ago. The man ran away and was hiding out in a complex. I haven't heard any further information about this man being identified or anything like that. But again, maybe Detective King would be able to answer questions about that. And in addition to that shooting, we had a subsequent shooting this past weekend in the 1500 South block of State Street, and two folks were sent to the hospital because of that. No homicides though. That's a plus. But so as usual, yes, violent crime in Salt Lake City is up. And I know that, when we look at CompStat, there are a lot of numbers on here. And again, this is publicly available data. You can go look it up. You can go look it up for many, many months and years going way back. The number that I'm focusing on this year, because it's less, day-to-day fluctuations, is this column, this year-to-date, looking at the amount of total violent crime. And in Salt Lake City, the total amount of violent crime has gone up about 22%. But unfortunately, when these are citywide statistics. When we look at District 5 statistics and we look at that same number, that year-to-date total violent crime, this has remained pretty consistent for months now. We're up 60%. And in other words, violent crime for our district is up 3 times the increase over the rest of the city. There are other districts where it's up as well, but none as high as us. And there are even districts in the city where overall violent crime is down. So we're being disproportionately affected by this trend. And I have met with Police Chief Brown and the mayor's office to talk about this and to remind them and say, our district is being disproportionately affected. Can you tell us what resources that we are getting as a result of that disproportionate rise in crime? Are we getting, for example, a disproportionate number of patrols to respond to that? And I know lots of you were on our call in September when the mayor and Police Chief Brown were together and meeting with us as a community to talk about the homicides that had been occurring in our neighborhood over the summer. And Police Chief Brown said that he was offering additional overtime patrols for our neighborhood, and a lot of us were glad to hear that. Unfortunately, when I've met with Chief Brown recently, he said largely those overtime patrols weren't taken. There's just not enough resources in the police force right now that folks weren't either available or interested in taking those overtime patrols. So in other words, we're not receiving more resources to deal with this problem. But it's not just us who are hurting, right? There are records that showed that average response times have doubled in the past year. Priority 1 calls haven't increased much. They've only increased about 90 seconds compared to this time last year, but priority 2 and priority 3 calls, the ones that aren't immediate threats to life, have gone up by 50%, or looking just at priority 2 calls, or when we look at priority 3 calls, they've gone up, I don't know, even I think by a factor of 3. And I know in our neighborhood, we've heard a lot of anecdotal evidence of never getting a response at all, or a response being 6 or 7 hours later. And I'm sorry for that. In other words, there's a lot of concerning data about police time. So I know some of the questions that our neighbors have is like, what can we do to support policing in our neighborhood? And Detective King, I wondered if you wanted to speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. I appreciate all that you said. I've been looking at those cases for those shootings that you were talking about, and I think still right now they're an open investigation. We're still looking for suspects. We don't have suspects. Like in the Lowe's, the individual ran off, and we weren't able to locate him. And I think the same thing is with the incident down on State Street. That looking at those reports, people heard stuff and they called and found damage and evidence and stuff. But I think we're still trying to piece those together, and so I don't have any more details. And sometimes I understand the frustration too. Sometimes for me, it's like I'm looking and I'm finding a lot of the information online too, as far as what's going on and what's being released to the media. And so that is the best is when you see that, a lot of updates. If I can, if there is an update, I'll definitely keep you in the loop. But I think right now those are still updates. So if anybody hears anything or if they know anything, definitely reach out to us. I know I've heard a lot from response times that is definitely a concern, and definitely something that I've heard is being discussed as far as how to manage a lot of that. Some of the things like you were talking about with the like the different calls, like whether it's priority 1 compared to like a priority 3. Every time you can get online, every time you have an issue and you need to report something, you can definitely call in. Or I wanted to throw out there that we do have the online reporting, so that you can get on there and you can get that reported to us. And there's a variety of stuff. Usually the online reporting is, say, if you had your credit card stolen and there's no suspect information, but the bank's requiring you to report that to us. You can get onto our webpage and report that if there's a harassment call or identity fraud. There's a lot that you can get on there so that you can get that reported to us that we're looking at, but you're not necessarily waiting. One of the things I wanted to point out that I thought was I like it. It's kind of nice to see is for the online reporting, they added a autism safety registry. So if you happen to have like a child or something that has something in regards to that, then you can get on there and you can get registered, and helps us out. I had a situation over this last summer where I was off duty walking around, and we had a nonverbal girl running around in the street, and so we were able to, my family and I were able to get her off onto the sidewalk, but then trying to locate family was a little difficult. She'd ran away from the mall, and we were able to eventually track someone down. But sometimes if you have individuals like that aren't verbal, maybe having something in their clothing that gives like a name or a phone number, something that we can call, definitely will help out. It took a little bit to find, but fortunately we were able to find her parents that they were looking for. But I saw that and thought that was a great addition to the online resource. And so there's a lot of stuff going on. Definitely a very interesting time as far as with the police department. We just appreciate any support. And sometimes I understand it is frustrating waiting for those calls. We feel that frustration too, but please keep calling, because we'll look at stuff and sometimes people will get upset and stop calling, and it looks like the problem may have moved somewhere else, even though the problem is still there. And so I do encourage people to continue to call us and let us know what's going on. Yeah, looking at those, the CompStat numbers, it's definitely something that's it's interesting, because it's almost like it's a roller coaster where you look at like the last 7 days, and sometimes there's a lot of green and then few red, and then a lot of times there's a few red and a lot of green. But then you look at the year to date, and it's definitely an increase. And I think that's something that you see a lot of stuff where they report that a crime wave's happening nationwide. What is exactly driving it, we're still trying to figure that out. A lot of it, I think, is COVID, people being stuffed up, or the jails not being able to take a lot of people. I think there's a lot of factors to it, but it's definitely, I know it is something that's being talked about and trying to figure out how to address that to get that curve to change back to lowering the crime. Maybe something we can, because I know about 2 years ago, we were down about, I think, 20%. And now it looks like we're up a little bit, or up quite a bit more. And so definitely being vigilant, having people walking around. I know that there's the mobile watch that's in the area. We got a great people that are involved in that to notify us to when they see issues, and a lot of that's coordinated through the police department, and it's a great asset to have, so that it's the eyes for us to be able to help us out to know what to do or where to go to find some of these problems that you guys are having.
Detective King, it looks like there's a question in the chat from Kevin about the autism registry that you mentioned. Is this a
Yes.
statewide resource, or is this just for Salt Lake, just for Salt Lake City, just for Salt Lake County? Maybe you could speak about that.
So the autism safety registry. So this is just on the Salt Lake City's police department's website. So if you go to the slcpd.com, you go to there's a link where it says online reporting, and that's the first link. I couldn't tell you if it's a state or a county. I just know that this is set up right now through the police department's website. And so I'm going to say probably it's just a Salt Lake City thing right now to try to help out individuals that have that, so that it helps them, helps us when we find kids that may have wandered away, to get them back to their parents safely.
Is that information that'll be relayed to responding officers when they respond to a home? So, for example, if there's an address, if they respond to an address, obviously I don't know if this how it works, but if they respond to an address that has a person who's identified with autism, is that something that'll be relayed to them so that we can avoid maybe unfortunate incidents due to erratic behavior?
You know, I actually just found this tonight, and so I was absolutely. I don't know how long this has been on here. I was trying to think of what to talk about and just kind of going over stuff, and so I just found it tonight. So this is some research I'm going to have to do to find out more. I would think that this is something that they're going to be able to link to officers that are responding to those calls to assist for finding kids when they walked away or something. But right now, I think it's a good step to get some of that information to help out.
Detective King, I was just scrolling through the SLCPD website and I can't find that. So if you could find a link to that specifically and put it in the chat, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, so I'll put that link. But like, I just went to the online report. There's kind of like a yellow bar that goes across my screen and it says "Click here to file a report." And as you click it, it comes up with a list of. All right, actually, it comes up with. Let's see. Yeah, it comes up with another page, and then off in the left, there's a little bit of a like a margin. It says online reporting, and when you click on it, it brings that up. But I'll put a link on there.
Thank you. I know that there are folks who really care about protecting, our special needs citizens in this time.
Is there any other questions for me?
Is there? I don't know how I want to phrase my question, but my question revolves around the uptick in graffiti.
Okay.
Should we be concerned? I mean, does that mean new groups are moving into our neighborhood? Is there a proactive approach to attempting to identify the culprits? Is it anticipated that it's a small number of culprits, or could the uptick in violence be related to the uptick in graffiti?
I think that's hard to say. A lot of times, I mean, you get graffiti for a lot of different issues. You get like typical what people will consider gang tattoo or gang graffiti, where they're marking territory. A lot of times, it's looked at as artistic, and where they like going around and painting stuff, and it doesn't really mean anything. It's just more of like there's a group of individuals that like to put their name, their calling card out there, but it's more of just what they consider more artistic. So as far as an uptick, I can't say. I mean, it's something that we see. Sometimes it kind of rotates around the city, maybe different locations, but it's kind of hard to say, I guess, unless we get like a specific signature that they're doing where we can kind of track it across the city, but I haven't heard of anything specific. I just know that it's there, and it's just kind of something that happens all over. And sometimes if we can connect it where you'll get someone that'll do like the same tagging constantly, sometimes it gets to be where we can start tracking it, but a lot of times it's just kind of sporadic all over the place.
If you could get any more specific information about that before our December meeting, I know multiple neighbors have asked me about that specifically, and I'm sure we'd appreciate a follow-up on that.
Yeah, about the graffiti?
About graffiti specifically, because I know Kevin's not the only person who's noticed an uptick, not only in graffiti, but in specific tags. So. Okay.
Gang code related type graffiti is what I've been noticing, more than just the artistic pictures. More the communicative graffiti than the artistic type graffiti is what I've been noticing.
Okay, I'll see what I can find out.
It's encoded graffiti. It's not Bob was here and Bob says hi. It's cons 264, that kind of stuff. I'm making that up. I don't know what it actually says.
Detective King.
Yeah.
Sorry. Is there an update? This is Michelle Goldberg, by the way. Is there an update on any new hires for SLPD or an academy class graduating, or any more resources coming your way?
I know that there's I think there was a group that just finished FTO, I believe. And I think that there may be another group that is started the academy, or they're going to start soon, but I'm not sure exactly numbers or timelines of when all that is. But it's something they're definitely going through and trying to recruit people to come over and become part.
George,
go ahead,
please.
George.
I've heard that George and I have been looking at some of the same spreadsheets. Would you like to answer that question?
And
George?
Rachel Otto and I have been talking about it too, and I think I copied as many community council members on it too. Detective King, I was told that the police department started a new class this month for academy, but instead of going the full, I think it's 12 weeks or something like that, they're going to be going half because they're transfers, lateral transfers, so they don't need to have 6 months coordinating with another officer on patrol. They can hit the ground running after just a month or two of academy, so that'll help. But there are 12 supposedly in the new class, plus they also have firemen and a few others going through it, but 12 laterals, and they should come online soon. The problem was the reason we went down to almost 50 sworn officers is because of the hiring freeze, but the hiring freeze has been lifted. I think the city and the mayor and the administration realized that they really need to step it up, and they are. So the academy class did start this month, and they originally planned to do it in next spring, but because of the issues, they recognized they needed to speed it up. I think the administration actually has been pretty good about that. So they're trying. That's my comment.
Thank you, George. If it's okay, I have one more policy issue before I want to turn it over to the team talking to us about Transition Point, the new apartment building proposed for our neighborhood. Is that all right with folks? Are we okay to move on? All right. Yes. Okay. Gonna share my screen again. Good-doink. All right. Okay. So one more thing. The city's shared housing proposal. So shared housing is kind of a vague term. What do I mean when I'm talking about that? Shared housing means, sorry, I have the chat window floating above my screen. Now I can read my notes. So shared housing. Okay. Shared housing means a residential building or part of one that contains smaller housing units that have one or more sleeping rooms. And those sleeping rooms either have access to a private kitchen or a private bathroom, but not both. So shared housing kind of means like a boarding house, I guess, for a term that maybe people are familiar with. Originally, this was called a SRO proposal, a single room occupancy proposal, but things have been updated. So now a unit could contain multiple sleeping rooms. So multiple folks for one bathroom or one private bathroom and then a public kitchen, or multiple folks for a private kitchen and a public bathroom. I'm bringing this to your attention because most of Ballpark and none of District 5 to the east of State Street will be eligible for these kinds of low and very low income rental rooms with shared amenities. I know that we need deeply affordable housing for the city, but if you look at the map here, you can notice the regions that are in color here on the left side of the neighborhood, Ballpark, are the areas of our district that are eligible for these shared housing occupancy units. To me, it's deeply concerning that there is such a distinct lack of East-West equity. I don't really know what to make of it. I think one of the reasons that I'm concerned is because things like the homeless resource center that our neighborhood has accepted and the Central City neighborhood has accepted have been presented to us as having no negative repercussions to our neighborhood, that design elements are being put in place such that there won't be any spillover effects to the surrounding neighborhood. But I think folks who live around the new homeless resource centers could give you every reason to not just believe that based on being told that. So the final public hearing on this proposal is scheduled for this coming Tuesday, November 10th. And the city council is going to potentially vote on this proposal either later that same night or the next week. You're welcome to learn more about the proposal and other areas of the city that could become eligible for shared housing at the city's website. And I'm happy to paste that into chat later. Here's another visual that shows where shared housing can be put, not just in our district, but across the city. And as you see again, like the east side of the city, east of 700 isn't even depicted because there aren't any areas there that I'm aware of that are eligible. So I'm concerned about this. And the other reason that I'm concerned about this, as we talked about this shared housing proposal on Monday evening's Central 9th Community Council meeting. And present at that meeting was Peter Caroon, who is the former mayor of Salt Lake County. He is currently in development, professionally, real estate development. And he commented to those who were present that shared housing is the wrong move for Salt Lake City, that he personally used to manage a SRO across the street from the law school. So he's speaking from the perspective as a real estate expert, a government expert, and management expert. So when somebody with those different kinds of experiences comes together and says, without any hesitation, do not go forward with this, I feel like that might be worth listening to. The other reason I want to bring this to your attention is this is incredibly not hypothetical. Once this proposal is approved, we will see shared housing in our neighborhood. We've already had a shared housing complex proposed for our neighborhood at 1725 South Jefferson Street called Pendleton Place. The Housing Authority of Salt Lake City applied for a loan for about $1 million from the redevelopment agency in September this year. But the RDA recommended against approving this funding request, stating and I quote, "The committee does recognize the value that this particular project would add to the community, but due to the project's non-compliance with zoning, the committee recommends that the applicant address the zoning non-compliance and reapply for funding in the future." So I think we need to realize that these would be, it wouldn't be a matter of if, it would just be a matter of weeks or months before we saw these in our neighborhood. Again, deeply affordable housing is needed, but it alarms me that it would be so concentrated in our neighborhood compared to other places in the city. And that folks have said that it's the wrong thing for Salt Lake City. For those of you who are interested in like, wait, what kind of zone do I live in? I just want to remind you that finding out about zoning is easily accessible to you. You can find it on the Salt Lake City zoning lookup map. And you can also find out like, what do those zones mean in terms of the kind of use that a building can have, or how tall it can be, those sorts of things. But as far as commenting to City Council, again, I'd encourage you to check out their virtual meeting comments, or potentially just submit comments via email. When I spoke to Darren earlier this afternoon, he said that he hadn't come down firmly on either side of this yet. So as his constituents, I would recommend that you reach out to him specifically. One of the other districts that's deeply affected by this issue, that would be mostly available for shared housing is District 4, run by Councilmember Ana Valdemeros. Councilmember Ana is currently out on maternity leave and will be through the first of the year. And I don't know if that means if she's responding to comments currently, but it might even make sense for you to reach out to other council members and share your opinion if you are interested in affecting the vote this coming week. All right. I know I've talked a lot about the demolition and boarded building ordinance in this meeting, and I just want to tell you it's on hold. Thank you for submitting your comments and showing up at meetings and talking about how you wanted this demolition revisions to go forward. But I will give you an update about when it will go up for a vote yet again. We are not there yet. It is going back for further revisions about landscaping requirements. And until those revisions are final, then there'll be another public hearing before there is a vote. Again, I will let you know. All right. Tradition Point, are you on the call? Hello, Mark.
Hi, Mark Garza. I am on the call. I'm also with my team members. I have a few others with me as well.
Excellent. Who should be sharing slides?
Let's go with David Vaughn. David, do you have access to the slides?
I do not. I'm having computer issues. I can't log into my office computer.
I can try this. I'm not as computer savvy as David, but I'll give her a shot. So I guess it'll be myself.
I have
So
just made you a co-host.
I'm sorry.
I have just made you a co-host, Mark. So you
Okay.
should see a button that's available to you down on the central bottom of your Zoom screen that says share screen. And you should be allowed to click on that and then click you don't have to share your whole screen. You could just share, for example, the window of the piece of software that you want to share specifically.
Gotcha.
Does that make
There we
sense?
go.
Do I make any
Share
sense?
screen. It does. It does.
All
I'm
right.
going to go ahead and show the photo, the elevation. So I hit share. Is that showing up?
It is. Well done, Mark.
All right. So Mark Garza with Ruco, who we own the property there. We own right there on the corner. We own the old triplex as well as the automotive shop that was once there. I'm curious about what you guys are doing with the demo because we would have loved to have demoed these buildings once we right when we purchased them. It's been a ongoing battle, as I'm sure everybody is fully aware of on these calls, listening in on these conversations. I almost feel like I need to start listening in on a more regular basis because it's been very informational. So thank you. So as shown, we are proposing a 5-story residential building, stick built, with 3 levels of parking. That'd be 2 levels above ground and 1 level below grade. It consists of about 78 residential units made up of ones and studio units. We are requesting an increase in height. As per the code, we are in the GC zone, and it currently allows for 60 foot. We are actually proposing, and again, if you don't mind, David, you can jump in if I say something incorrectly. David Vaughn is with Beecher Walker. He's the architect responsible for designing this building. I also have Gray Garza. He's with me, my assistant. And so he may jump in if I mistake something as well. So anyway, we are requesting.
I'm just gonna pester you now and just remind you that you're speaking to a super non-expert audience. So if you can leave out abbreviations and say like, general commercial or something, or or remind us even, if you live in another corner of the Ballpark neighborhood, it might be helpful to scroll to where we're thinking about, like where this is and how close it is in proximity to the track station.
Sure. And I apologize. I may not know that area nearly as well as everybody else does, but is my pointer shown on the screen?
It is. Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
It's hovering above the jogging man.
Yes. So the frontage along this side is 1400 South. And the frontage across this side of the building is Jefferson Street. And so obviously the ballpark is off of 13th. And what is that?
If you'll give me control, Mark, I've got Google Earth up with a overall aerial photo.
You would ask me to do something like that.
I can't. I'm disabled from sharing.
Is that something that I can do?
I just made you co-host, David. I don't know if there's a weird limit on how many. Apparently, I can make anybody a co-host. So please feel free to share. I have a projection as well. So let me know if.
Can you guys see my screen?
Not yet.
Not yet. We see that you've started sharing your screen, but we see black.
Oh, it's delayed.
Oh, that's weird.
Says I'm sharing.
It does say you're sharing. If you'd like me to, I could share the projection.
That's unusual that I use this all the time.
Yeah, I haven't seen this happen before.
Right.
Do you mind if I share it, David? Or try?
Sure, go ahead.
Maybe it'll be delayed on my end too. I don't know.
We're less than a quarter of a mile from the ballpark track station. I do know that.
You guys see that?
There we go. Yep.
All right. Okay, so that gives you an idea of what we're thinking about and where. And I think it's important to note that, here we already have, on the same block, the Ballpark apartments, which are already, are they a 5 or 6 story building?
I believe they're 5.
Okay.
Or 5+1. They got 1 level of parking above grade and 5 levels above that. So it's 6 total.
And you guys are proposing a 7 with 2 layers of parking above grade and then 5 layers on top of that.
Yeah, I'd call it more 6.5 because the parking levels are 8.5 feet, 9 feet per level. They're not, the floor to floor height's pretty low on those.
All right. I'll stop sharing and give back control to anybody. I just wanted to folks be able to recognize like, where is 1425 South Jefferson Street? Well, it's this close to the ballparks up here. Ballpark Apartments, track stations over here, etc. All right.
Yeah, listening into the conversations, you guys sounded like you knew this place inside and out. So I was very impressed. I just made some assumptions, and so I apologize for that.
We are committed and invested non-experts.
So I'm going to put that back up. So I mentioned that there are 78 units, 1 bedroom and studio units. If you're looking at the picture on the street level, you can see the storefront, the glass windows there. That's kind of the leasing office over in this area, entrance to the project, and the gated parking structure. Right on top of this parking structure, what we call the PT, or the post-tension slab. This would be all a concrete slab built up through here. There would be a open courtyard with benches, fire pits, gathering area space for the residents. You would also have some rooftop terraces, patios that would be available to either side of the building. Again, open to the residents, some more benches, some tables, and things of that nature. We went through the code. We feel as if we can meet everything on there, minus the height restriction. And not that we couldn't meet it, we would do it. To be completely honest with you, there's a water table issue here, and by raising this building up, it allows us to get out of that water table. It wouldn't prevent us from building this building if we had to deal with that. It would just require us to handle the construction differently. There'd be pumping involved to make sure that the site was drained adequately, and the building would still be built. We would just stick with the 60-foot rather than going with a 75-foot request is what we're currently asking for. So we're asking for 15 additional feet from what the code would allow. I'm going to see if I can share.
The code actually says you can ask for up to 30 feet. We're just going 15 feet. So it's actually in the code that you can ask for additional height.
I apologize. I'm going to try and find another document. I was hoping David was going to do this. So we prepared some exhibits that kind of show the shadowing of the building, of what it would do at 60 feet versus the 15 feet. And again, I may be biased, but it didn't make that big of a difference.
I've got those marked.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, but I can try to share again.
I'm getting closer. City.
See if this, wrong one. That's a contract.
Thank you for bearing with me. Did
you find it?
Yes, I did. I'm just now trying to get to it. Okay, so share. Okay, so these photos here, again, this would be Jefferson Street and 1400 South. The red or purple color shadow effect here represents what the 60-story building would cast with the shadow. The blue represents what that additional 15 feet would cause. There's another shot right here. Oops. Kind of showing the same thing, where that 15, the extra shadowing that would be caused. We can go line by line on each of the design guideline requirements that we met, if you'd like. I don't know how much detail you want to go into. I kind of try to give you a little summary there.
I feel like I'll let some of our residents' questions guide the level of detail that's appropriate, but also time constraints.
Sure. And one other thing I will mention, the code allows for basically a half unit, a half parking stall per unit. We, in our market studies that we have uncovered, another thing I'll mention, we are market rate. These apartment buildings will be a market rate rent. We aren't looking for any assistant income levels or anything like that. This would be all market driven. And what we've discovered is even though the less parking is allowed, we're seeing that we need the parking. The demand is kind of requiring that the tenants that we think we will get are looking for parking stalls. So we are very close to a 1-to-1 is what we're trying to get to. One stall per studio, one stall per one bedroom is what we're trying to achieve. Again, the code does allow for less than that, but we think we need the parking. And that's, again, why we're coming out of the ground and why we have 3 levels of parking rather than, 2 or even 1 level. We are going with the extra parking, which will help with the streets and everything around us and the parking issues that are already out there.
Yeah, I think
But
that's
I
a
will open it
wise.
up to equipment.
I think your parking choice is a wise decision because being in such close proximity to the ballpark, many months of the year, the idea of finding on-street parking is ridiculous.
Right.
So, and I think residents are going to be smart enough to realize that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We agree. I know staff, they tried to keep us under the less parking, but we feel pretty strong about it.
I've got a question for you guys.
Absolutely.
I've seen maybe 2 renderings of this. One is showing a grand staircase coming out of the courtyard space, and the other one's showing parking coming in. Is there a staircase that I'm missing, or is that an old rendition? Or
that's an old rendering.
So
that's such a pity. That seemed like some pretty good ground level engagement. That's not going to be there anymore.
No, due to us raising the building and so forth, it didn't lend towards that any longer.
Yeah, I guess for me, I look at it and I worry about the engagement to the street. It's like, with a parking entrance as the main facade, you drive in, you pull into the parking lot, you go up into your building, and there's not a lot of interaction with the ballpark community, which seems like a lost opportunity maybe.
I apologize. I did something I've lost everything on my screen. I apologize. David, do you want to talk about some of the different pedestrian scale ideas that we came up with to kind of make this what we deem pedestrian friendly?
Yeah, next to the lobby, we have a main entrance. It's hard to see if you go back to that rendering on the right-hand side. We have a secondary entrance as well on the north side with a glass storefront. And we know people are going to be out of the building. You got tracks right there. So right next to the entries is all glass. You can see it there. And then on each end of the building is a vertical stair tower. But yeah, that's kind of how we're engaging. We're hoping people are going to use, public transportation as well. That's within a quarter of a mile.
Could you tell us about the external pedestrian height lighting elements of your building?
Did you say height lighting at the height of
I'm
the
sorry.
lighting?
Yes. Could you tell us about the external pedestrian level height lighting aspects of your building? And I'm trying to distinguish that between the kind of lighting that you would see, for example, on State Street or Main Street that is more, traffic oriented.
We're planning on having more lighting down to keep the sidewalks lit, the front of the building. I mean, to keep it, it's part of the safety. We all know this neighborhood, as we heard in the earlier portion of this meeting, has a lot of homeless and a lot of crime. So yeah, we're gonna have lighting along the sidewalks, down at those canopies.
There would be some uplighting in the landscape areas that kind of shoot up towards the building in the landscape area. Some of those details haven't really been worked out yet. Again, to be all honest with you, we are basically on hold pending this height adjustment. We haven't wanted to take the extra detail of engineering and so forth much further without knowing if we're going to have to completely change this latest set that we have. And so a lot of those details, again, will be worked out at a later date. But our plan, we definitely know we need pedestrian friendly lighting. That corner, we know we need to light it up. And that's definitely planned for, but it's not, I couldn't tell you exactly where all the different lights will be positioned on the building or where they will be in the landscaping, but we know it'll be lit up.
I know, as being a leader in this community for, I don't know, 5 or so years now, that these are questions that we tend to bring towards every developer. And I think that we'd be more supportive of things like height increases if we saw evidence of decorative pedestrian level lighting. Because that's been a major concern for our neighborhood for years. We've been trying to work with the revising Salt Lake City master lighting plan. It hasn't been refreshed since 2006, as you may know. So it's been kind of difficult for us to make advances in pedestrian level lighting in our neighborhood. And if developers were independently taking those steps and acknowledging that that is a strong need for people to feel comfortable in a transient, what a slip I'm making, a transit oriented development, that would speak a lot to us about you understanding the context in which your building's being placed.
And I apologize. This is our first application within the city of Salt Lake City.
Oh, welcome.
And so do we come to, thank you, but do we come to your board down the line? Do we come back at our, when we, get further along in this, or is this the one stop? You guys get to make any comment at this point? Because I'd love to show you again once we progress here.
Right. So I know, it's my job to submit a letter if we'd like to the Planning Commission. But Eric Deems is on this call. I'm sorry, Eric, I'm butchering your last names. And you could probably answer those questions in a more authoritative manner than I could.
Sure. So for the community council as well as for developers. So the process is that, tonight's the opportunity for the open house to discuss some of the items. The community council has the opportunity to submit a formal letter with their recommendation, their issues, their concerns. That is included as part of the Planning Commission packet and is taken into consideration with the Planning Commission. This will require a public hearing, and the date's not set for that at this point, but once it's set, we will do notification to the neighborhood and to the community council again to let them know when the public hearing will be. And then again, of course, anyone, including the community council and the members, will have opportunity to comment again at that point. But other than that, this is the one stop here in front of the community council in this format.
Well, I can tell you, we're going to come back to you on another project in next month, I believe, and we will definitely have that prepared for you. I promise you that. But David, I do think with your expertise, you could, knowing that, you probably can tell us where you can place some lighting, knowing the importance of it and what you would do with that.
Right, and we'll look in with our electrical engineer, but but yeah, we could definitely engage the street there with, I mean, I think it's very important. I agree with you guys. But yeah, we'll work on that for, especially for the next one, but we'll get that in there.
Terrific. We really appreciate it. I think it, makes or breaks the feeling of a street.
Are there street lights, David, that we're proposing along there? I know that's more vehicular, but I don't think there's any. Is there any out there now?
Not that I'm aware of. Is there a street? You don't have street lights in this
Because
area?
we'll be improving the park strip, sidewalk, curb gutter, which there are no curb gutter out there now. I don't believe. Anyway, no, there's not, because I was parked on the side of the street there. So no, there's no curb gutter out there. We will be improving the streetscape along there, and we'll probably have to start looking at some streetlights in that area as well.
Terrific. Thank you.
There is no light pole standards or anything in this neighborhood, correct?
No, that's actually been one of the things that we have found particularly horrific. Our neighborhood is not even mentioned in the 2006 street lighting master plan in the city. Every other neighborhood, you can go and see exactly what kind of design your decorative pedestrian level street lighting poles should be, what kind of articulation they should have on them to match the other ones. Ballpark is not considered worthy of being mentioned in any way. So we're grateful for any pedestrian level decorative
we'll help
lighting.
change that.
I would love it if you would. Thank you. Sorry, got a lot of strong feelings about that. Need to tamp them down.
No, it's great. It's
All
great.
right. Okay, well, thank you. For any other community questions?
I have one. This is George.
George, do you live in our neighborhood?
You keep asking me that.
I know. Someday you're going to tell us what neighborhood you actually live in. It hasn't happened yet.
Oh, Elpco. You know I live in Elpco.
I don't.
I have a lot of
George, you
in,
hover above the city like a gracious presence, worried about all of us all the time.
I have a lot of friends, and they don't want to attend the community council meeting, so I do. I have a general philosophy that increased height shouldn't be allowed on buildings unless there's a percentage of affordable units in the building. And I just would argue against, and I think the city council also is having an issue with this too, because I've watched them stall projects with increased height because there's no affordable housing in there. I know the institutional zoning didn't go through, but the philosophy at the city council is increased height should have some affordable. So is there any chance of cutting some of the bedrooms in half and making them micro units?
What are the bedrooms? You have 74 units, but it doesn't say what they are.
There are actually 78 units currently. No, you're right. It was misleading because I noticed one page said 74 and another said 78. So you read it right. But there are 78. There are 1 bedrooms and studio apartments is what we're proposing. The 78
1 bedroom and 25 studio.
The 78 units we can get with the 60-foot height limit or this proposed increase of height. So that wouldn't change the number of units either. By not allowing us to go up higher, we would still be able to get our 78 units for what that's worth. But at this point, we're not looking to go below market rate on our units. We think it helps the area. We think it helps the community. I know affordable housing is needed, but we think this is the right fit for this area.
I think we've gotten our fair share of affordable housing in our area.
Yeah.
Yeah, depending on how this shared housing proposal goes, that we may be seeing more than our fair share. We're not sure. All right, thank you very much, Mark. Looking forward to seeing you again with another proposal. Reed Sherman, did you have a question?
I did, yeah. Thanks, sir. Anyway, thanks for the presentation. A couple of questions for you. Are these going to be rentals or are these going to be for sale apartments?
These are rental. They are rental units.
And how many square feet or how big are they about? As in the one bedroom is going to be bigger than the studio, obviously, but just kind of curious of what the sizes are on those.
Yeah, David, do you have that by chance?
I don't off the top of my head. I want to say they're,
What, 600 square feet to 500
Yeah,
square feet?
yeah, I think the studios are around 5 or 6, and one bedroom's around 7,
Okay,
750.
If you don't mind, give me 1 second. I'm
sure.
just a little slower at this than David, but I have it somewhere. Come on. I got screens open everywhere. I can't. Where are you?
And then, was this Tradition Point supposed to have a bigger footprint? I heard that you were trying to acquire the couple buildings on West Temple right behind it. Is that correct? I mean, originally it was supposed to be a bigger project,
At one
I guess.
point, we inquired about those other properties. We were not able to make it work. And so.
Okay. That's too bad. Okay.
If you haven't found it, I show an average for the one bedroom apartments of 550 square feet and the studios of 393.
Oh, okay.
Got it.
Thank you, Eric.
When do you plan to, I guess it's probably too early to say, when do you start to do demo and start to excavation? What's your hope, I guess, and what's your goal on that?
We, as soon as we could get these plans approved, our funding is in place, we're ready to go. We actually, again, before identifying the water table issue, we were in full scale design and planning and actually interviewed contractors. And so this would be something that we would like to move on spring of next year.
Next year. But the build out's probably what, 18 months to 2 years, or that's once you start breaking.
Yeah, you're 18 to 24 on this one. It takes a little while to build the concrete portion.
Got it. And then on the 1400 South, how far are you going to be redoing the curb and gutter and so forth on that? Just around your perimeter of your footprint? Because I know there's no curb and gutter at all the way to West Temple down to Jefferson Street. Is that something?
Yeah, that's correct. We would be improving not so much, not only the footprint, but our property. So property line to property line is what we would be improving.
Improving, okay. And then any power, I guess any power lines to be in the ground. I mean, obviously we put whatever's around you, we put Rocky Mountain Power, have you guys put that down in the ground, I guess. Is that correct?
Correct. I think there's some overhead lines in the alleyway behind us. We would come down from that power line and feed it underground.
I see. And then are you all the way to the property line limit? Is that what you're trying to get? It means obviously to, I guess there's a zero lot, what is it called?
I believe we have a 10-foot, David, 10 and.
Yeah, no, we're within the zoning.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not asking to go closer to the property line.
Okay. And then all the people who live there and park their cars will be approaching Jefferson Street and coming in to the front of the building. Is that correct? And that's what I gather. Is there any other exits for parking, or is just a front here on Jefferson Street? I see right below the Tradition Point.
Yeah, just a single off of Jefferson.
Okay. So you're not going to use the alleyway in the back at all? I mean, for anything, or is that where the trash is going to go? The trash?
No, the trash is located inside the garage. We will actually have to pull that out to dump it, but yeah, it will not be seen to the public. It will be there'll be a trash compactor inside the garage.
Okay. And so then on the rendition that you have right here, if I got it correctly, on the left side we'd be facing north. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
And then the front that we see is west facing?
Correct.
Okay. And then is the east side, is it much different from the west side here? It's gonna be different, obviously different elevation, different look, but it'd be similar to probably what the other north and south sides would be, I'd imagine.
Right.
Yes.
It's more similar to the north and south.
Okay. Got it. So you're hoping to break ground sometime next spring, and then 2 years from then, try to have it completed. That's the goal, I guess.
Yes.
Okay. And then thank you for boarding up the triplex there. We had a lot of homeless element there and the trailer there. And so I appreciate you guys doing that. And so anyway, it's been an issue with a lot of things over there. So
Yeah, we apologize that we don't sometimes get there as fast as we should or can, but we're trying and we continue. We were out there again yesterday, so it's almost an every other day event.
So I noticed on here you have a little bit of a rooftop garden. Is that correct? Or how big is the rooftop area? Is that for barbecues or just kind of just hanging out, or what's going to be going on? Is it the whole rooftop or just the front on the west side that you have access to?
It's the inner, it's a pretty large area. We haven't completely designed it. We're going to use Loft 6.4 as to help us design that space.
I see.
But it's pretty substantial. I think that's, how many units is that, Mark? Probably on top of six units on each side or something like that.
I would say, yeah.
And we're going to have a club room up there.
So
Loft 6.4, who did the hardware building downtown, the rooftops in Third West as well.
So it's available for all residents who live there, or just for the residents who are next to it, their apartments?
No,
all residents. Yeah, all residents.
I see. Okay. Got it. All right. Well, thank you. Appreciate you the information on that.
Thank you.
All right. Am I muted? No.
Nope,
Excellent.
we hear you.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you very much for those detailed questions, Reed. I know lots of us appreciate when folks are immediately adjacent to someplace. They have even better questions than the rest of us about how things are going to work. Okay. Matt Melville, Michelle Flynn, how are you guys doing tonight?
Good.
Hi.
Hello. I have your exciting graphics and I can from your flyer and I'm happy to display them. I wondered if you just want to introduce yourselves first to the community. Matt, he's here basically every month, but Michelle, you're a new face for some folks here and an important one. So I would love it if you would, before, we show another faceless graphic, I would love it if you would tell the community who you are and why you're important.
Thank you so much for giving us a little bit of time on your busy agenda. We certainly appreciate all of you who are so involved in your community. My name is Michelle Flynn. I'm with The Road Home. Many of you know our organization. We are an organization that's focused on helping people end their homelessness and get back into housing. And we are truly honored that Shelter the Homeless has asked us to come in and serve as the operator at the Gail Miller Resource Center. As you know, it was formerly operated by Catholic Community Services, who decided not to renew their contract this year. So we started November 1st. We're excited to be here and support the team. Matt and his team are staying there, doing the work, the hard work. We are coming in and hopefully bringing some good infrastructure and support, training, best practices to that team to help them serve the people that come to the Gail Miller Resource Center every day. I want you to know we take this responsibility really seriously to focus on this vulnerable population, but also be a good partner and member of the community in the neighborhood. And we look forward to working with you. I also want to introduce Sarah Strang, who's on this call, and just ask her to say a couple of words, and then Matt will give you the update and go over that graphics page.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. So my name is Sarah Strang. I'm the Deputy Director of Crisis Services. So I oversee emergency shelter services for the Road Home, including the Midvale Family Resource Center, the Men's Resource Center, now the Gail Miller Resource Center, in addition to some of our overflow options that we operate throughout the winter months. Really quickly, just wanted to let folks know, if you don't know, remind you if you do know, that every quarter we hold the Neighborhood Advisory Committee. It is a committee that is dedicated to hearing the concerns from the neighborhood, if that's businesses, residents, different areas. So please come to our Neighborhood Advisory Committee. We want to discuss and address concerns that are happening in the community. A part of this committee is someone that we have representatives from the city, we have providers, shelter the homeless, and then of course the voice of the citizens in the Ballpark area. Our next meeting will be on Monday, November 18th at 7:00 p.m. So if you have concerns that are specifically related to the Resource Center, we would love to have you come and join us at that meeting.
I just want to say that's a Wednesday and not a Monday, just because I was panicked and checking my own calendar and being like, I can't make, but
We have that date
be
wrong,
calm,
then.
be calm,
It was on a
everyone.
Monday.
It's a Wednesday.
I'm going to go now and double check that date. Just
Okay.
a moment.
Excellent. Please do. I know that there are several folks on this call who've attended and contributed to those meetings, either as community members or people who are participants in the community council or local business owners. And I really think more involvement is better than less involvement.
And you are correct. It is a Wednesday. I'm not sure where I got Monday from, but it is a Wednesday.
I just wanted to calm myself. Yeah, and I know, so the Road Home also owns another building in Ballpark, 1415 South Main Street. And some of us have been interested in what, it seems like remodeling's been going on in there for quite some time. So we maybe look forward to having you all as administrative neighbors sometime soon. Could you tell us maybe when we could expect to
Sure.
see you guys?
Yeah. So that will be an administrative building. It's not an overnight facility. And we plan to be in there in mid-December. And it has taken a while as our fundraising has evolved over the last year or so.
That's a kind euphemism. I bet you all are in a tough place like everybody else, but we look forward to having you as neighbors. You will enjoy our bakeries and coffee shops.
Thank you.
Matt Melville.
Yes, thank you, Amy. Hopefully you can hear me all right.
I can hear you so well, and I'm happy to project your excellent graphics at this moment.
One thing I do want to let the Ballpark community know is how excited we are at the Gail Miller Resource Center to have the Road Home coming in and being the operator. They are pillars of the community and have been for decades now. And not only that, but they are nationwide leaders in emergency shelters and housing programs. So this is really going to be beneficial to the entire community, having an agency with this much support and resources behind it.
Could I interrupt? Could I interrupt you and say, in turn, we are so grateful that the Road Home has continued to employ you and your team with such experience in the, and I don't know if you can see the call, Matt, but I just saw other people raise their fists in solidarity on the call. We are excited to have you in this position in our community and keep having this position in our community. Your leadership has been much appreciated, and I hope, and oh good, a clapping icon from Michelle. Excellent. Okay, I will stop narrating this and I will show your slides. Please continue. We're so glad that you get to continue.
Well, thank you. We love it here. This is home for us, and we're very passionate about making sure the community is safe and secure, and people can recreate and live and get services while they're here safely. But yes, we are celebrating our 1-year anniversary. Just over, I think it was in September 13th was when we first took our first guests in the building, and we have celebrated. About 132 people have entered into housing in that year. I know it's kind of hard to tell because there's always people coming in the building, but we are getting people into housing, and we are also having job fairs, 728 job placements. That may seem like a lot, which it is, but a lot of people are getting jobs, and sadly, because of the low wages and the high rent in the valley, it is required to get 2 or 3 jobs to sometimes be able to save up the money to pay for rent, first month's, last month's, security deposit, and all of those things. But people are working. They're excited to get out and go and work in the community and get back on their feet. Some of our other highlights are we feed 3 meals a day. That's 163,000 meals being served. We've served over 2,032 guests since we've opened. And we have had 7 people enter into treatment programs in the valley. That still is something that we're focused on, and we can't force anybody in, but when they're ready, we make sure that the resources are there for them to enter into a treatment program. Another thing that we like to look at is the average length of stay. This is still a new model, and we're letting the numbers settle, and we've been through an earthquake and COVID and all sorts of things. So who knows, what the reality is with all that's been happening in the world. But we do have matrices that we keep, and the average length of stay is 39 days. And the median length of stay is 8 days. So what that means is we do have, anytime the statistics are skewed that far from the median, it means there are high utilizers in that system that are utilizing beds very, very frequently and have more barriers to get into housing. So they are utilizing the shelter system more. But the median length of stay is currently 8 days. And I just want to thank everybody that's been able to come and volunteer and work inside the center. Ballpark community has been really great to us, and we look forward to being community members and helping out any way we can. And we're very thankful to have the Road Home here to support us.
Not only that, not only volunteering inside the center, but I'm also proud for folks who've been advocating for street improvements outside the center when it comes to lighting or parking changes to make the transition in and out of the center safer for everybody, not just guests of the center, but also staff of the center, visitors, guests, anybody. I'm happy that some of those changes have been coming down the line, and I'm glad people have been active in that space. Any questions?
Yes, thank you.
Pardon me. Any questions for our team?
Yes, this is Michelle Goldberg again. For the Road Home folks, I own the business across the street from the Gail Miller Center. And most of the issues that the business, my staff, and my customers have experienced are really just a function of loitering and what's being allowed on the property, such as just sleeping on the sidewalk, even on the Gail Miller property, or, having people just come in and out of my business or panhandling and things like that. And I'd like to know if the Road Home, in terms of what you mentioned in best practices, has some basic rules of the road to stay at the resource center, so that my business probably won't be here in another 6 months, but for the 3 to 6 months that I will be alive, my business is down 70%. And again, most of the issues come from people who cannot help themselves, who don't have a place to live, who are not mentally stable. And I just want to know what's the plan?
Hi, Michelle. Thank you. We are looking forward to learning more about these challenges, particularly how we work with the neighbors and with guests of ours who are staying out in the area around the resource center. We have been talking with Matt about some of these challenges. We are going to be meeting with Dennis and the outreach team to learn more about what their role is. But we are really focused on creating the kinds of services and resources inside the facility that people want to stay inside to access. If we can meet their needs and the things that they are looking for help with, then we know that they will engage with us in the facility. And as Matt is saying, really our focus on getting people out into housing. And so they come in, they stay with us, they get attached to the kinds of resources to help them get rehoused. And we're able to help them move quickly on is really what our goal is. And then, of course, to work closely with our partners at Volunteers of America, who are also do the outreach in the area. And so we know there's a lot of work to be done in this space, and we look forward to working with everybody on these issues.
Okay, great. My only request is that great things are happening inside, but outside is an area I'd love to see a little bit of attention paid to. And Amy, just on another note, I didn't say it during the SRO part of the meeting, but as someone who's lived in between two SROs, cities are trying to get rid of SROs. They're not building new ones. They are like a mini housing project. Basically, you're just gathering people and how, for lack of a better word, housing them all in one place and creating another huge loitering meeting place for everybody. I mean, I can just tell you from living, like I said, in between two, it's a bloody nightmare. And I think they should look to other cities to see the challenges that they've had with SROs.
Michelle, I definitely recommend that you submit these comments to council, speak in front of council, please. I wish there was something that I could do to be more influential in this situation. Like I said earlier, it was extremely impactful to me to hear from Peter Caroon that he believed that these were the wrong direction for Salt Lake City, because I've heard, a lot of pluses and minuses about them. We are looking for deeply affordable housing solutions for the city because we do have a problem with having too many unhoused people. But I don't know if this proposal is the right one for our city. I wonder if there are some mitigation strategies that we could use going forward that would help address some of the concerns that people have about SROs.
I'm kind of with whoever spoke up earlier. I can't remember. There is so much building going on in the city. It is ridiculous. It should drive apartment. There's apartments available everywhere, and we're building new apartments all the time. And instead of concentrating people in one place, they should have opportunities to live in integrated housing with regular market priced housing and lower income housing. I think that model, again, if somebody wants to look at some research from some major cities that have done that, I think they'll find that those are much more successful than shared housing.
I look forward to seeing your name in line with my own name on Tuesday night. Can I count you? Can't you in on the fun?
Sure.
Yes. Sorry. And you and I are part of the problem, Michelle. We're both jerks from somewhere else that looked at Salt Lake City and was like, hey, this place looks great. I want to move here. And then we did.
That's okay. We'll keep trying to make it better. And
yeah,
it started out pretty good. And so just making it better.
Thank you. All right. Can we move on to hearing about 300 West? An incredibly related idea considering where Paramount Avenue enters and exits from.
Good segue.
Oh, thank you. When is the pavement going to start breaking up? When are we going to get a fancy new 300 West? Are you going to preserve pedestrian access while you do it for the folks who are accessing the Homeless Resource Center?
Absolutely. It is our goal to continue to provide access to businesses, to destinations, to housing facilities. This corridor is changing, as you guys all know. There's, we already talked about it. There's apartments being built. It seems like it used to be very industrial in nature, but the need of our growing city is dictating this type of this type of change. And so we are going to provide access, continue to provide access to businesses and housing and all these other destinations that people are accessing along 300 West. So do you have our presentation, or can I have access to show some slides similar to the ones we showed last time?
I'm delighted to give you access.
All
right. You have just been made co-host.
All right, let's see.
Again, how come I can make everyone a co-host? That's really weird. I would think that would be like a limit, like 1 or 2.
Share screen. Here we go. Can you guys see that slide, the 300 West slide?
Absolutely.
Okay. So thank you for inviting us to present on our project, the 300 West project. As you guys know, thanks to the 2018 voter approved streets bond, we're able to fund this project. This is the largest street reconstruction project out of that bond. And we are happy to be here tonight to present to you sort of what we've done so far. We started outreach back in the spring, late spring, early summer of 2019. And we're now getting close to finalize our design. So as you guys know, the project, the reconstruction of 300 West, we're doing it from 2100 South all the way up to 900 South. It's a big chunk of road. We're looking at the types of use that the corridor is now, that people are demanding from the corridor, as we talked about, is changing from very industrial to commercial, residential. There's a lot of commuting going through in and out of the city through this corridor. And so we're taking that into account as well. We're taking a look at our master transportation plans for pedestrians, for people using transit, people riding bicycles. We're looking at our complete streets ordinance. And we're also looking at our climate goals for the city that have been enacted and adopted by our elected officials. And so plus the feedback that we've gathered through this process, as some of you may already know. Earlier last year, or summer of 2019, we conducted some focus groups to sort of help us guide or understand what people wanted to see out of this new 300 West. And we got a lot of very useful feedback that got us going into this community outreach process. This has been our timeline from, again, back in early summer of last year. And we've done a lot of outreach. This is one of the projects that throughout my career, I can hands down tell you, we've done extensive outreach on, and I'm proud to be a part of this team, because I feel like we've gone, and honestly, it should be like this on every project. We've talked to a lot of stakeholders along the corridor, people that commute, people who walk, bike, people who use wheelchairs along the corridor, people that work, shop, or just use it for commuting purposes. And we've gotten their comments and their feedback. And it kind of shows in the types of concepts that we're going to be implementing. We're now towards the end of this graph. So we're now basically going back to you all to provide updates on where we are. We're also talking to business owners along the corridor and property owners that have properties adjacent to 300 West to see how we can best incorporate our design with their needs and their use of the street. Again, going back to the types of outreach that we've done, we've literally gotten thousands of comments, and we're still always willing we're always accepting comments. We're willing to talk to you, have meetings like these as needed, because none of us want to make sure that we get this right more than we do. And so we've got one chance at doing this right, and we want to make sure that we do that. So we'll keep providing updates as we go along. And to your question, Amy, in terms of the construction aspect of how we are going to phase the construction of it, whether we start at the south end or the north end, or we start in the middle, and then we both work our way towards either end. That'll be decided by the construction company that we end up awarding the contract to, and a lot of that decision is based on their approach and their strategies to construction. So in a lot of it.
I just know
Go
that I pestered Councilmember Valdemaris for months and months at public meetings saying like, it is extremely important that we have accessible sidewalks in place to get to and from the Gail Miller Homeless Resource Center during this time. And I know she was like, but they're just going to be torn up. And I said, I know, but they need to be there during this time because we know folks have died, you know, trying to get to the Men's Homeless Resource Center in South Salt Lake. And I'd love to not have to read that headline. Gosh.
Correct. Right. No, it's important to us as well. You know, some of the things we've sort of ran by people to gather their feedback on, and this is on the left, you kind of see the types of things we were demonstrating and kind of the kinds of things we were asking feedback on, and then on the right you sort of see the forms that we were filling out, the types of things that we have boards out on the street. We had a presentation at the Homeless Resource Center as well, talking to the guests there, and these are some of an example of some of the forms that were filled out and how we got their feedback upon. I mean, it was very easy for them to see what we were asking feedback on, and there were actually some of their comments were very, very helpful in helping us decide this new concept, this design. I guess I'm gonna leave this now to Jeff Golden. He's with our transportation engineer, and he can help us explain a little bit what we're thinking about.
Thanks, Adon. Appreciate it. Thanks for the intro. Amy, I'm going to assume that you and everybody else can hear me okay. If not, please let me know.
Sound great, Jeff.
Thanks. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So to follow up on what Adon was talking about, we took the ideas and feedback as well as existing conditions, the project goals and city goals to develop a more equitable 300 West. So the cross section that you see there, Adon, there you go. The cross section here is the new design for 300 West. It includes continuous sidewalks on both sides of the road, a two-way bikeway on the west side of 300 West, park strips, 2 travel lanes in each direction with a continuous center turn lane. All of this while fitting within existing city right-of-way. The design was selected based on criteria like public input, safety, constructability, user comfort, park strip area, those types of things. We're excited to share this design with you today. We think that the elements included in this design will provide for more equitable transportation choices for people of all ages and abilities. This slide walks us through some of the notable elements in the new 300 West design. The two-way bikeway will encourage more active use along 300 West. It's being designed for all ages and abilities, making it comfortable and inviting for whoever would like to use it. It's being designed to be simple and intuitive, and it's based on people-focused transportation ideas from around the country and around the world. We're also going to fill in missing sidewalk. 300 West has over 1,700 feet of missing sidewalk today. So we'll fix that by providing wide continuous sidewalks on both sides of the road. The sidewalks will be designed around the existing obstacles that are out there today, like the power poles. We're also going to include park strips. They'll be included in the project not only to beautify 300 West, but also to provide a buffer between traffic and people walking and riding bikes. We'll be able to include environmental features to collect, store, and clean stormwater runoff from 300 West in certain areas. The drainage along 300 West will also be improved. The roadway width will be reduced on 300 West by about 25 feet. So this reduces the crossing distance for pedestrians who cross 300 West. The 25 feet equates to about 6 to 8 seconds less that a pedestrian has to be in the roadway when crossing 300 West. We'll also be installing 2 mid-block crossings on 300 West to provide more frequent and safer access for people crossing 300 West. One of those is going to be up near the Central 9th area at American Avenue, and the other one here in the Ballpark area at Paramount Avenue. So we're adding a lot of transformative elements into 300 West to make it easier for people to get around using a variety of travel choices. So this is a slide that shows how we're fitting all of those elements into the existing city right away. The cross section at the top is what most of 300 West looks like today. There's a lot of space covered in asphalt and dedicated to the automobile. So we're narrowing that space, providing all of those elements that I just mentioned, and you can see that in the cross section below. So we're doing all of this while staying within city right of way. We really task our design team with a challenge on this one to transform 300 West with those continuous sidewalks, bikeways, and everything while still staying within the right of way. And 300 West will continue to have two travel lanes in each direction and a continuous center turn lane for vehicles, as it currently does in most of the project area. And there you can see the configuration with the road being repaved. So to fit in the bikeway, the park strips, the sidewalks, we had to narrow the travel lanes and shoulders. And on-street parking on 300 West will not be allowed with the new design. There are a few additional elements that are worth noting, and I'll go ahead and keep talking about these while Adon shows you that video, but we're going to be installing medians in 2 locations on the project to mitigate jaywalking. They'll be installed from 1300 South to the Hope Avenue signal and from 2100 South to Hartwell Avenue at the southern end of the project. The raised median, which I'll have Adon show you what the raised median looks like. It's shown in green on this graphic. It's going to be designed with a decorative safety barrier across it to not allow pedestrians to jaywalk, instead to direct them to the signalized crossings, like for example at 1300 South in this example. This is the example in between Walmart and Lowe's that you see there in the graphic. Both of those representatives from those businesses were at our business workshop, and they were supportive of the median in this location. The reason we're installing medians is to improve the pedestrian safety. We want to direct people away from the mid-block locations into the nearby signalized intersections. Adon, the next slide will show the amount of people that are jaywalking. So as part of our existing conditions analysis for the project, we reviewed several locations where jaywalking typically occurs on 300 West. We counted pedestrians and found a surprising number of people jaywalking. The top bar there is from the 1300 South area, where about a third of the people crossing 300 West do so outside of a crosswalk. Most of you probably noticed that's what those images are. It doesn't take you very long of standing out there to see that sort of unsafe crossing behavior occur. The bottom bar is from the Home Depot area down at 2100 South, where the majority, 58% of people jaywalk. So we're hoping to address these sorts of unsafe crossings with the medians that I just described. I'll turn it back over to Adon in a second to wrap up, but before I do, just a couple of quick things. You know, we're really looking forward to bringing this project to reality for you over the next couple of years. I also want to talk briefly about the direction that the Transportation Division is moving. We're trying to evaluate our right-of-way and find better ways to accommodate multiple travel modes when we work on projects like this. So we're currently doing other projects in the city where we take the same approach. 200 South through the downtown is another big project we're working on. Right by Ballpark, we're working on 900 South, where we'll be adding a shared use path along the south side of 900 South across the city. So the work on 300 West is indicative of the changes that the Transportation Division is making when we look at reconstructing our roads. So that's all I had for this evening. Thanks for listening. Adon, I'll turn it back over to you to talk about the next steps.
Yeah, so like like we're right now at 70% design, so we're about to wrap up our design here in the next 2 to 3 months. We are expecting to begin construction sometime in the spring, and we're anticipating this project lasting approximately 3 years. So from 2021 through the end of the construction season in 2024. One of the things that we haven't really talked about, but we showed real quickly in the video, is that as part of these reconstruction projects, we're coming in, we're starting from the ground up. And yes, we're adding all these other equitable transportation modes, providing more travel options for more people. But we're also renovating and upgrading our underground infrastructure, like storm drain system, sewer lines, water lines. We know that there's apartments coming. They're being built even before we've started on the project here. And that, you know, it adds a certain demand on these infrastructure services, these utilities that we all enjoy. And so in order for us to continue to enjoy that quality on our utility services, we ought to keep up with that growth. And so we are going to be upgrading aging utility infrastructure that's currently underneath the road. So we're talking to fiber optic companies, we're talking to the gas company, you know, public utilities within our city. They're in charge of water and storm drain systems and sewer. And so they'll be coming in and help partnering with us. And a big section of this time frame that we're giving you here will be around us upgrading and updating these underground systems. And so it's not just what's on top, but it's also what's underneath the road that we don't always see. And so we will be holding how to survive construction seminars for businesses, so that you know, they can kind of sort of see things that have been done around the country, best practices in terms of surviving construction, because we know it will be impactful. No matter what we, you know, how we face it, even though we'll try to do our best to minimize those impacts, it still ends up being impactful. So we'll try to minimize those as much as we can. And so we'll be coming back to you all to give you guys updates on the 100% design once we finalize that earlier next year. And then here's our contact information. Again, we've collected hundreds and thousands of comments already, but we're always open to hear additional feedback, additional comments that you may have. And this is how you can get a hold of us through these meetings. So this is the end of our presentation, and now we'd like to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you, gentlemen, for spending your late Thursday evening with us. Oh, we have people using the raising hand function, a thing that I never use. And George Chapman is choking on his snacks. Michelle, would you like to ask a question?
No, I'm laughing.
I know, I'm kidding with
No,
you.
that was for the earlier. I raised my hand a while back.
All right, can I lower your hand then? Is that cool?
Yes.
All right, Lucy, I see a hand there.
Hi, can you guys talk a little bit about the plants you're planning to put in the park strip and what kind of irrigation they'll need?
So one of our, we have our city engineer, Matt Castle, here, that he can also help us answer questions, but we are going to be working with our urban forestry experts within the city. There's a department that's in charge of, you know, identifying which types of trees and what kind of vegetation will sort of survive some of these environments. As we all know, we're the second driest state in the country, and so we ought to think smartly in terms of how we can make better use of water and while still provide a welcoming environment. I want to say that the days in which we used to just, you know, install grass all over the place and have sprinklers going on, I think those days are over. We're trying to be more sustainable in terms of the amount of maintenance that some of these landscapes require. And again, because of our water shortage here in the state, we're trying to be smart about that too. So it'll be a combination. We have landscape architects on our staff, and we'll be partnering with the urban forestry department to help us identify which types of trees can survive some of these environments. As we know, we also face snow, so there's a lot of slush and salt that ends up in these park strips, and so we have to think about what kind of tough vegetation we can install while still making it look nice and beautiful out there, which we know it's possible. So
great, thank you.
Great question, Lucy. George, did you want to ask a question?
Yeah.
That's
you've
so
heard
weird.
This before, but I'm still concerned about the pedestrian lights at the major intersections like 17th, 13th, and 21st. I'd still like to see a dedicated pedestrian illumination. And I know there are systems that do that, and I'm disappointed that you're not doing it. 9th South, 13th South, all of those major intersections require pedestrian illumination to discourage left-hand turning vehicles from running over pedestrians. And left-hand turn vehicles do run over pedestrians and bicyclists, and I'm concerned about that. So I'd like to see left-hand turn vehicles discouraged, except at the lights. My final comment is, I know there's a park strip ordinance that limits plantings, but I'm concerned because the dedicated bike area is away from the street, but the plantings may hide the bicyclist and create a safety issue. I hope you remember that when you're designing the plantings. Those are my comments.
Thank you, George.
Did George want a response to those? They're good comments. This is Matt Castle.
Well, Matt, I'm sure that George appreciates the validation to start with. Just
no, it's good. I mean, we know that our roads, left turns are always our biggest headaches, and they're the leading cause of a lot of our accidents. And we'd love to sit there as engineers put medians in everywhere to stop left turns, but that is the one thing that businesses push back harder than anything else on us. And so, yeah, it's always something on the top of our mind, how we make our roads safer. And that is one of the areas we continually try to work on.
And then for the landscaping by the bikeway, the city has site distance requirements for driveways and intersections. So I'm pretty hopeful that the city will hit its own site distance requirements as part of this design. If not, then you can call me out on it next time.
Don't look so smug, Jeff. These are just the kinds of checks and balances that we need to address.
I hope we get it. Now that you brought it up, I'm being serious. I'm gonna make a to-do after this to make sure that I forward that to the designers, because it's a good point.
Right.
I know it, but I got to make sure the design team has a copy of that.
And I just want to share that to the rest of the group that's here tonight. We've had countless meetings in which we have a bunch of experts from each field: drainage, landscaping, traffic engineering, you name it. And we're talking about it, and we're bringing these ideas, and we're playing devil's advocate on each thing that we're proposing. And then we're like, okay, let's think about it. Let's go back. Let's do our homework. Let's gather more data, and let's come back with solutions and answers. And so it's been a very collaborative effort. You have public utilities, streets, economic development, transportation, engineering. We're looking at everything from the snow removal of the bicycle path to how the vegetation. I mean, I'm telling you, it's interesting to see all these pieces coming together. The amount of feedback that we've gathered and the engagement that we've had. None of this would be possible without the Finding Our Future initiative that was passed a couple of years ago, and we are more than we're just excited to begin delivering on these projects, because they will be transformative, to say the least.
That is what I like to hear. Expertise getting unsiloed, talking to each other, and then we're going to get to reap the benefits, not just Target. It's going to be great. I'm going to ride my bike there and not get squashed. Anybody else?
I would offer a counterpoint that I love being able to turn left, and would hate to see that discouraged, although I have no problem with creating sight lines. If you've driven up to the base recently, or I guess, well, anyways, to Layton in that area, I used to go to Krispy Kreme. I'm a big guy. I like my donuts. I don't anymore because they made a horrible, disgusting mess there that I can't even drive there anymore. A lot of the solutions that we have for basic things like turning left and turning right are so complicated and counterintuitive that drivers can't navigate them.
But Kevin, maybe your blood glucose level is benefiting from this hazardous situation.
Or maybe I'm grumpy all the time because I don't get enough sugar.
Try some complex carbs, Kevin. They'll suit you right. Be great.
I prefer to avoid an accident if at all possible, especially so close to home. We're ripping apart our streets and doing all kinds of weird things like on 1700 South, and now we're going to we wanted the sidewalk on 300 West. We're going to create this interesting project that hopefully will be positive, but this is a city, and it was a city before we all came around. We all lived here, and we had I'm not understanding the drive to fundamentally transform the entire city. And that would be my piece. And most of this isn't for the residents. Most of the residents in our area, they drive where they're going. We're a residential area, don't have a lot of walk-to businesses. Home Depot is not a walk-to business. Costco is not a walk-to business. Lowe's is not a walk-to business. They have huge, wide setback parking lots. The reality is all this, the drive on 300 West to create bike paths and to this drive is I believe, and in my own personal opinion, this drive is largely dictated by the homeless resource center there. While it's great that we have a center and such, it doesn't mean that we necessarily transform and make less navigable our neighborhood.
I would totally love to push back against you on that, Kevin. I walk 5 miles in our neighborhood every day. I cross 17th South on foot an average of 6 times a day. I am delighted about the idea of making our neighborhood a more walkable and bikeable place to live. And I have walked and bought, 6 or 8 items at Lowe's several times.
And if I could add a little bit to that, those are good points. And I think what we're dealing with is 2 points in time. And what transportation is trying to do is the things we're doing today are being done in anticipation 30 to 40 years out. And if we don't start today to meet those needs in 30 to 40 years, we'll never get there in 30 to 40 years. You are absolutely right. Today's needs are geared around the use of vehicles to do everything that you want to do. But if we don't start today and look out 30 years to try to move people away from the dominance of vehicles, we'll never get there.
Yeah, Matt made a good point. I can add on, Amy, if it's okay. This might be a topic that you want transportation folks to come back and talk about maybe a little bit more holistically and maybe more citywide, but maybe specifically more specific to 300 West. We talked quite a bit about trying to make our public right-of-way, the city's right-of-way, more equitable for everybody. The average annual cost of ownership for a vehicle is $8,000 to $9,000 a year. And so what ends up happening is if you have an annual income in Salt Lake City, Salt Lake County is what, in the high 40s. So if you have 2 cars in the garage, 2 cars in the garage costs $50 a day. And so that ends up, if you do the math, it's about 1/3 of an annual household income is devoted to owning and operating 2 vehicles. That's the average income. So if you're less than that, it's a high percentage of your income. And so instead of continuing to build our right-of-way so that if you remember the graphic that we had up that was the way that it currently is today, where it's basically city right-of-way to city right-of-way is pretty much devoted to the automobile. We're doing something that is not as equitable as we could with that city right-of-way. The other point that you made about you always drive to Lowe's and Home Depot, and we hear that quite a bit, and we hear that from people that drive to Lowe's and Home Depot, and people ask, why would I ever walk or ride my bike to Costco or Sam's Club or Walmart? 50% of the employees at Walmart either take tracks or ride the bus. 50%. So when we look at who we're building our streets for, like Matt said, not just today, but the future, what we're doing for the future, who we're building our streets for in the future, we're not necessarily building our streets for the people that have been driving their cars for decades and decades, but we're building our streets for people that want to or need to use alternative forms of transportation. I mean, I showed you those pictures of the folks jaywalking across 300 West right there at Walmart. That happens all the time. We want to do what we can in the city's right of way to better accommodate those uses. The beauty about this project is we get to do that while still providing 2 travel lanes in each direction like exists today, while still providing a continuous center turn lane, and while still providing all of the turning movements at the signalized intersections, at the side street intersections, as well as at the driveways, with the exception of a couple of locations, but still providing all of those movements for those folks that have their truck that want to go to Lowe's. So it's a little bit of a different take on transportation planning and engineering that we've done in the city, but it's something that we think will help set us up for the future, as Matt said. And again, this is specific to 300 West, so I don't want to belabor it too much, but Amy, if you do want to have us come and talk some other time, maybe more holistically about it, we're definitely more than welcome to do that.
Well, I would just say, and since you had your say, I'd like to have mine. When you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So it makes perfect sense for the transportation department to say, hey, 30 to 40 years, everything's going to be public transportation. That's not very realistic, nor is it very beneficial to the majority of our populace. Like I said, Amy, you've got a PhD and most people don't. I work about 60 hours a week in several different cities, and so do a vast majority of the residents in our neighborhood. Ours is a struggling neighborhood. We don't have those options. We need to be able to get around, to get in, and to get out of our neighborhood.
Yeah, but I'm not sure I agree with that because, that's a pretty walkable street right down there, and it hasn't really been addressed. I mean, they said what, like 2,000 feet of sidewalk was missing? I mean, it feels like there's a need there to address.
I agree. We wanted the sidewalk. I have no objection to a sidewalk. I just have an objection to traffic channeling and eventually restriction.
So I think the best in the coming months, and it's going to take a while to process this, but transportation is going to start updating the transportation master plan. And that's where this philosophy has to be drawn out. And the residents, the community has to help transportation division define what our goals are, our future goals are. And this piece of conversation is exactly what needs to happen to develop that updated transportation master plan, which is coming.
Can I ask a quick question here? Are you in and Amy, I'm sorry, I don't know who is connected with who, but are you in collaboration with the people who are designing the new master plan for the ballpark? And I ask that because how is Third West going to connect to the rest of the future infrastructure that is being planned for our area? I'm hoping that Third West isn't being planned in a bubble when we have kind of this other master plan happening out there. I'm just curious about that.
Thank you, Shelley. That's a great plan. And I just saw somebody's camera turn on. So yes, please. Would you quick intro, quick preview for what you're going to chat up with us about next month? You're on mute though. Please unmute yourself.
Who is it? Is Matt going to do that or me?
No, there's someone new, right?
Huh? Yeah, the ballpark station area plan is, I think, what you're referring to, right?
I'm not sure. Is that what it's called, Amy? The one with the GSBS is doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, the ballpark station area plan. Yep, just kicked off relatively recently. Yeah, that's being managed out of our group as well in transportation division. So there's some close coordination with that. And the 300 West project is, of course, much further along.
Right.
So, it definitely is coming, whereas that is a little bit more of a higher level planning study. But yeah, there absolutely will be coordination and all the same group handling both of them.
Yeah. if I
Christine
can add,
Richmond is from GSBS and was on this call and was speaking, but we could not hear her. And I think,
Oh, that's who
are
you're
you,
referring.
hey, Christine?
My machine is crashing and doing crazy things.
I apologize. We will hear about that.
Machine.
We will hear about that master plan a little bit more next month.
Thank you, Amy. I was so excited when it came up. I think I made my machine crash. But we are going to be talking about transportation and connectivity within the neighborhood and coordinating with the improvements that are going on 300 West. That's a part of what we're going to be looking at. So I was really excited to hear the conversation.
That's perfect. That's good to hear. Thank you.
All right, moving forward, I see that Tim put some comments in, Tim Cosgrove, that is, put multiple comments in our comment field so we can get updates about parking enforcement has returned, and also they're looking for folks to establish an urban forestry subcommittee. I added, I'd love some, I don't speak Spanish. I may have a PhD, but it turns out that speaking molecular biology is not super helpful for a ton of community engagement related things, except for COVID. So if there are any folks on this call who do speak Spanish, I think that would be extremely helpful for a community tree committee in our neighborhood, especially considering how bilingual we are. Tim, would you like to talk aloud? You're giving us a lot of good text. But maybe you're having computer issues too. Hi, Tim.
Hi, Amy. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I was worried because we're past the 9 o'clock, so I wanted to get the information out as much as I could. I wanted to give everybody an update, and I appreciate Lucy asking the question about the trees along the parking strip, because y'all know the mayor loves trees. She's asked the community councils to assist us in replacing and recovering from the 3,000 plus trees we lost in the hurricane on September 8th and 9th. So we're looking for community councils to help assist by creating an urban forestry subcommittee. That the purpose is to ensure that the trees are located within the boundaries of the community. Councilors will receive the care and the long-term sustainability, especially in watering the trees. And I'm happy to work with you on doing that. We'll be working with Tony Gliot. Again, Don talked about all the technical requirements that goes into that. And Tony's one of our city experts in that field, so he can help answer the questions. I also wanted to get out the information to let everyone know that as of November 1st, parking enforcement has resumed. We're returning to normal, regular operations. And I also listed parking enforcement's phone number if you need to call them or have any questions. And then I was talking to the Salt Lake City School District, a couple of the board members in my last community council meeting last night, Sugar House, and they're asking for your help in filling out a survey. They're currently in the search, a nationwide search for a new superintendent, and they'd like to know what you all think for the school district for Salt Lake City in conducting that search. So they've asked if you would participate in this survey. That's some of the top things I had. I can talk about other things if there's questions. I have more information if you want more. Just trying to be respectful of the time and address what you want to address.
Folks, questions? I think I hear a literal cricket on the call. Does anybody else hear that? Okay, Tim, I don't know how frequently you get to hear literal crickets on Zoom, but appreciate it. Thanks for sticking around and hearing about the stuff we're worried about. Same old lighting, new development, policing, stuff you hear us worry about every month.
Well, I appreciate your engagement and the community and the members' interest in wanting to being involved in the community and helping to make a difference.
Sure beats doom scrolling.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Adjourn?
Hey, that sounds cool. Lloyd, you want to second that?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Yeah, right on. Okay. Thank you all for spending your Thursday with us. Feel free to sign on to City Council with your comments on Tuesday. I'll see your name in line. You'll see mine. It'd be great. Have a lovely evening, everybody. Watch out for each other. Wear a mask. Wear a mask. Keep on wearing masks. And distance.
Yay.
Yay.
Thank you. Be safe. Good night.
Stay safe, stay distanced. All right. My household coffee maker is about to grind the coffee, so I'll end this meeting. Hey, Jeff, how's your mom?
He's doing really good, much better than expected.
Oh, good. I'm so sorry to hear that she fell. That's such a scary injury for people.
Yeah, she's doing great. Thanks for asking.
Oh, my pleasure. Did you hear any of the stuff about shared housing proposals or things like that?
No, I missed that, but you can send me the info.
Yeah, basic thing is that proposal on shared housing is going to be up for public comment for the last time this Tuesday at City Council. So if anybody has any negative feelings about it, and I do, this would be a great time to voice any concerns to City Council members, especially because Council Member Valdemaros, who's over District 4, she's out on maternity leave. So it seems important to talk to the folks who are going to be there about the things we're worried about, which is it's disproportionately all on Ballpark, the western part of District 5, that kind of thing. Does that sound vaguely familiar?
Yep.
All right. I'll send you a slide or two.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Take it easy, folks.
Have a good evening, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.